As we all know, the NBA can change extremely quickly. Whether it be trades or free agency movement or disgruntled stars, there always seems to be something going on that could dramatically change the landscape of the NBA if it ever went through. As a result, there are a number of teams that have their rosters all set for this coming season that might look totally different next year. Let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, Washington Wizards. After a string of awful seasons from 2008 to 2013, the Wizards have managed to win 40-plus games in each of the last 5 seasons, and made the postseason in 4 of those. The problem with that is they haven't ever really been considered to be a real threat to win the Eastern Conference at any point in that time period. The closest they got was probably the 49-win team from the 2016-17 season that nearly reached the conference finals but lost a heartbreaking 7-game series to the Boston Celtics in the second round. After a significant step backwards this past season, they made some roster moves over the summer to try and continue to build around their core of all-stars in John Wall and Bradley Beal, alongside wing Otto Porter Jr. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of teams that couldn't break through the LeBron James barrier in the East the past few years that now have new hope with him in LA. But if things don't start looking up this year, this Wizards team could look very different very soon. It all starts with the fact that they're paying a ton of money to keep those 3 players on the roster, and even though they're each still young, the return on investment hasn't been great to this point. To make matters even worse, Wall is set to begin his Supermax deal in 2019, which would nearly double his current salary, all the way up to around $37 million, and then continue to increase after that as he exceeds 30 years old. So essentially, this is a make or break year for Washington. If they struggle before the All-Star break to look like a real threat in the LeBronless East, changes might be coming to the Wizards, likely in the form of a John Wall trade. It won't be easy to move him with that huge increase in salary coming in 2019, but this is really their last chance to do so. If that doesn't work, they might take a look at trying to trade Porter Jr. or Beal, but that likely wouldn't be their preference. In the end, none of this might happen, and they could have a great 2018-19 season, but if things go wrong, look towards Washington if you're a fan that's interested in some trade fireworks. Number 2, Milwaukee Bucks. With the exception of a handful of seasons, the Milwaukee Bucks have held a strong foothold as a mediocre team ever since the 2000-2001 season, in which they reached the Eastern Conference Finals behind a 25-year-old Ray Allen, which is also the last time they won more than 50 games in a single regular season. Since then, they've almost always won between 30 and 45 games, but haven't won a playoff series since the 2001 playoffs, despite postseason appearances in 8 seasons in that time span. But now, probably more than ever, there is tremendous pressure on the team and the front office to build a contending team in Milwaukee. They have one of the true superstars in the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo, a former mid-first round pick that has developed into a terrifying combination of size, athleticism, and skill for the Bucks. The Greek Freak himself is signed through 2021, but the team doesn't appear to be good enough to challenge the top teams in the East this coming season, and there isn't much longevity to the pieces around Giannis either. They put themselves in a tough position by giving out some questionable contracts the past few summers, and they already have $96 million committed through the summer of 2019, which doesn't give them much room under the cap to make significant improvements. That number could be lower depending on how team and player options shake out, but that gives the team another problem. The 2 best pieces they have around Giannis are Eric Bledsoe, who they traded some assets for last season, and Chris Middleton. Bledsoe's an unrestricted free agent in 2019, and Middleton has a $13 million player option that summer that he's also almost guaranteed to decline. That would give the Bucks some extra wiggle room under the cap, but 2019 is expected to be a huge player market, with a lot of money from the summers of 2015 and 2016 coming off the books, and more cap space around the league means that Milwaukee will likely have to spend big money just to keep this current group together. Even though Bledsoe isn't a star by any means, he will likely demand a sizable deal, while Middleton is an excellent complementary option with great size as a defender and a lights-out shooter. So barring some unforeseen development from other players on the roster, the Bucks' options in 2019 will be to spend a ton of money to bring back a group that hasn't proven to be good enough to reach the Eastern Conference Finals, or lose 1 or 2 of their best pieces around Giannis just 2 years away from him becoming a free agent himself. Either way, things don't look good. Number 3, New York Knicks. Next up, we have the New York Knicks, a team that experienced a brief bit of prosperity just a few years ago, winning 54 games in the 2012-13 season. but have gone through a laundry list of head coaches since that includes the coach of that team, Mike Woodson, along with Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, Jeff Hornacek, and new head coach David Fizdale. That was their highest win total since a 57-win campaign in 1997, and their only 50-win season since 2000. Simply put, the Knicks just haven't been very good for any sustained period of time in a while. But even with the issues of the Phil Jackson era and some of the objectively awful contracts they've handed out recently, there could be some hope on the horizon. Kristaps Porzingis has proven to be a strong foundation on which to begin building a winning team, and he'll soon have the ammunition to go after some big names in the summer of 2019. The team is currently on track to have over $30 million in cap space this summer, potentially enough for a max contract player or to spread the wealth around to a handful of guys to surround Porzingis with a more capable supporting cast. This could even include current Celtics point guard Kyrie Irving, who hasn't committed to Boston long-term just yet, and there have been some rumors swirling that he could be eyeing a move to New York next summer. Add in the promising play of rookies Kevin Knox and Mitchell Robinson in Summer League, and you can start to see how the Knicks could begin to become at least respectable in 2019. On the other hand, things could go very, very wrong. I personally don't buy into the notion that Irving would leave Boston because he is certainly a unique guy, but he isn't a stupid one, and he could see that the Celtics have as good a chance as any team in the league to pick up the championship mantle once this current Warriors super team runs its course, or even challenge them when they're still at their peak. I'd be shocked if he left Boston in 2019, and even though there are a good amount of high-level free agents available that summer, I'm not going to give the Knicks the benefit of the doubt when it comes to off-season signings given their recent history. There's also the matter of Porzingis, who is currently rehabbing an ACL tear in his left knee, and there have been some reports that indicate he might miss the entire 2018-19 season. He is a restricted free agent in 2019, so New York will have to come up with a new contract in order to bring him back or match whatever offer sheet is thrown his way. But either way, that's a tricky decision to make given the severity of the injury, and especially if he doesn't play at all this coming season. I would be shocked if he wasn't in a Knicks uniform past 2019, but other than that, pretty much everything is up in the air for New York. They could manage to bring in a max player that summer and build towards the playoffs, or they could give out some bad contracts and continue to be a bad team with little upside, or they could hold on to that space and continue to be a bad team, but at least one with some kind of upward mobility behind Porzingis, Knox, Robinson, Ntilikina, and whatever other first rounders they pick up along the way. No matter what though, one thing is certain, their roster will look very different this time next year. Number 4, Minnesota Timberwolves. Last up is the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that finally broke through and made their first playoff appearance since 2004, a season ago, but since the season ended with a first-round playoff loss, there have been a ton of reports about issues within the organization. And it isn't just one guy either. Karl Anthony Towns isn't happy with head coach Tom Thibodeau, Andrew Wiggins wants to be a bigger part of the offense, and Jimmy Butler is tired of being the big brother to all of the young guys. Basically, things are pretty volatile in Minnesota at the moment. Wiggins just signed a big extension last season, so he likely isn't going anywhere, and Towns has reportedly been in talks with the team about a max extension, and even with the issues and nothing having been signed yet, it seems unlikely that they would part ways. But that brings us to Butler, who has a $19 million player option in 2019 that he will likely decline, and as I mentioned earlier with the Bucks, that summer is definitely a player market. So there'll be a ton of teams with the cap space to potentially bring him in if they want to. With all the issues they've reportedly been having, it seems pretty clear to me that something is going to change with the Timberwolves in 2019. Whether it be trading away Butler mid-season because they're afraid he'll walk that summer, or him signing somewhere else in the offseason, or the firing of Thibodeau or even a potential Wiggins trade, there are changes coming in Minnesota. They do have a good amount of salary coming off the books next summer, and if Butler and Jeff Teague both decline their options, that frees up almost $40 million more in cap space. But even if that happens, and I think Teague turning down $19 million is far from guaranteed, most of that would be taken right back up by Butler's new deal if they did somehow manage to convince him to come back. One thing I can say with a lot of confidence is I don't think Thibodeau will be the head coach at the start of the 2019-2020 season, and as far as the players on the roster are concerned, the possibilities are pretty endless. And there you have it, 4 NBA teams that could look completely different in 2019. My name is Tucker, this has been Sporting Logically. If you missed any of my previous Monday, Wednesday, Friday videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.